The beginning of it all. A boy named Michael. On August 29, 1958, in a small industrial town called Gary, Indiana, a boy was born who would change the world of music forever. Michael Jackson. He was the 8th of 10 children in a large, energetic family. Imagine a house where there was never a shortage of noise, laughter, and above all, music. The living room was the improvised stage, and the sound of instruments and voices echoed from every corner. Michael's father, Joseph Jackson, was a determined man. He not only believed in his children's talent, but he had a clear plan: to turn those children into stars and give the family a better life, far from the gray factories of Gary. But this did not come without sacrifices. Joseph was demanding and strict, and from an early age Michael learned that discipline and hard work would be his reality. The life at home was intense, but there was something magical there. In the midst of all that chaos, Michael began to show something different. A unique light that shone when he sang or danced. Without anyone imagining it, that boy, with his shy smile and incomparable talent, was about to embark on a path that would lead him to become the greatest music star of all time. And did you know that Joseph's dream would be just the beginning of one of the greatest stories ever told? Get ready, because the best is yet to come. Michael grew up listening to the radio and the rehearsals his older brothers did in the living room. And do you know what was impressive? Even so young, he could already imitate his brothers, dancing and singing with a voice that seemed to come from someone much older. He had something special, something that no one could ignore. Soon, Joseph decided to form a band with his children. Thus was born the Jackson 5, and Michael, at just 5 years old, was already the lead singer. And it wasn't just because he was cute or because he could sing well. No, Michael had something that shone brighter than the stage lights. He had an infectious energy that made anyone stop what they were doing just to listen to him. But not everything was so magical. Michael, even though he was a child full of joy on stage, had a difficult life behind the scenes. The rehearsals were intense, his father was very demanding, and he had to give up many things that other children had, such as playing or running around in the park. Even so, Michael continued because he knew, deep down in his heart, that he was destined for something great. And that's how, from a simple home in Gary, Indiana, a star was born who would begin to change the world. Can you believe that such a little boy already had such a huge destiny ahead of him? Hold on to your curiosity, because his story is just beginning. Want to know what happened when Michael and his brothers began to conquer the world? Then come with me, because the next part is magical. The Jackson 5 phenomenon. When Joseph finally gathered his children into what would become the Jackson 5, he was betting big, but not even he could have imagined what would happen. Led by Michael, the youngest of the group, the Jacksons began performing in bars, schools, and local talent competitions. Michael was only 5 years old, but as soon as he stepped onto the stage, all eyes were on him. He sang with a passion and maturity that seemed impossible for someone so young. And when he danced, it was as if the stage was an extension of his body. The group's talent quickly caught the eye, and it wasn't long before they were discovered by Berry Gordy, founder of the legendary Motown Records label, home to such greats as Diana Ross and Stevie Wonder. In 1969, the Jackson 5 released their first major hit, I Want You Back, and it went down a storm. The song hit the top of the charts, and the whole world started talking about this talented band of brothers, led by a little boy who seemed right at home on stage. But the success didn't stop there. Songs like ABC, I'll Be There, and The Love You Saved became worldwide hits, and the group made history by placing their first 4 singles at the top of the Billboard Hot 100 chart. That had never happened before. The colorful outfits, the energetic choreography, and of course Michael's unmistakable voice, won over fans of all ages. Despite all the glitz and glamour, Michael was still a kid living a very different life from the others. He was constantly on tour, recording songs and rehearsing non-stop. While other kids went to school and played in the backyard, he spent his days in studios and on stage, carrying the burden of being the face of the group. Even so, Michael was passionate about what he did. He gave his all to each performance, and the audience felt it. Can you imagine a kid so young being the soul of a worldwide phenomenon? It was like he already knew he was destined for greatness. And so, the Jackson 5 were not just a musical group, but a true cultural revolution. They opened doors for Black artists in the entertainment world, broke barriers, and proved that talent and dedication could change the course of history. And if you think this story is already incredible, just wait until you see what happens when Michael decides to shine on his own. The solo journey begins. After years of shining with the Jackson 5, one thing became clear. Michael Jackson had a light of his own, and it couldn't be limited to one group no matter how talented he was. He had already started his solo career at the age of 13, but it was in 1979 that he took the first big step towards becoming the legend we know today. And it all started with the album Off the Wall. Michael wanted to show the world that he wasn't just a child prodigy or the lead singer of a famous group. He wanted to be recognized as a unique artist with his own vision. With the help of legendary producer Quincy Jones, he created an album that blended disco, soul, funk and pop in a whole new way. Off the Wall brought the world hits like Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You, songs that made anyone want to get up and dance. The album was a huge success, selling millions of copies and winning over critics. Michael not only proved that he could shine on his own, but he also set a whole new standard for what it meant to be a pop artist. He won his first Grammy as a solo artist and began to attract a larger and larger audience. But Michael didn't stop there. He wanted more. He wanted to create music that would not only be successful but that would last forever. And this desire drove him to dedicate himself even more to his art, always striving for perfection. His voice had an emotion that touched people's hearts, and his performances were full of energy, charisma, and a unique style. Despite his success, Michael still faced challenges. He was moving away from the shadow of the group and the cute little boy image that everyone knew. He wanted to be taken seriously as an adult artist, something that wasn't always easy. But with his determination and unparalleled talent, he began to forge a path that would take him to the top. Did you know that Off the Wall was just the beginning? Michael was just warming up for what was to come. Want to know how he became the biggest star on the planet? Then stick around. Thriller, the album that changed everything. If you think Michael Jackson was already big with Off the Wall, wait until you hear what he did in 1982. That was the year he released the album Thriller, and believe me, nothing in the music world would be the same after that. Michael wanted to create something that broke boundaries, something that was bigger than himself. And he did it. Produced again by Quincy Jones, Thriller wasn't just an album. It was a phenomenon. Every track seemed made to be a hit, from the powerful vocals of Billie Jean to the infectious energy of Beat It to the classic that gives the album its name, Thriller. And the whole world was mesmerized. But do you know what really made Thriller special? The music videos. Michael believed that videos could be more than just promotional footage. They could be true visual spectacles. And he proved it with the music video for Thriller. Directed by John Landis, the video was like a mini-movie with zombies, incredible choreography and an engaging story. It changed the way music videos were made forever. The impact was gigantic. Thriller became the best-selling album of all time, with more than 70 million copies worldwide. He also won 8 Grammys in a single night, an impressive record that cemented Michael as the greatest artist of his generation. And it wasn't just his music that won over audiences. Michael's performances were breathtaking. Who could forget his performance at Motown 25 in 1983, when he did the famous moonwalk for the first time? It was a magical moment that left millions of people open-mouthed. Suddenly, everyone wanted to learn how to glide across the stage like him. But the success of Thriller went beyond the numbers. It broke cultural and racial barriers, bringing Michael's music to audiences all over the world. He was the first Black artist to have a music video widely played on MTV, opening doors for many other artists who came after him. Incredible, isn't it? A single album turned a young artist into a living legend. But did you know that for Michael that still wasn't enough? He wanted more. He wanted to reinvent the impossible. And in the next chapters, you'll see how he did it. The King of Pop. After the resounding success of Thriller, Michael Jackson achieved something few artists can. He was no longer just a famous singer but a global icon. It was at this time that he was given the title King of Pop, a well-deserved recognition for his impact, innovation, and unparalleled talent. Michael was not just an artist. He was a cultural phenomenon that transcended generations, races, and languages. This title didn't come about for nothing. Every performance Michael gave was a spectacle. He didn't just go on stage to sing. He created unforgettable moments. In 1983, during the TV special Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, Forever, Michael gave a performance that went down in history. It was there that he performed the iconic moonwalk for the first time, gliding across the stage with a seemingly impossible ease. The audience was amazed, and the world was introduced to a new dance move that would become synonymous with his name. Beyond his performances, Michael was also redefining the concept of pop star. He created music videos that were true works of art, like the electrifying Smooth Criminal, with its famous gravitational tilt, and the epic Bad, directed by none other than Martin Scorsese. He didn't just make music. He told stories, created universes, and transported people to another world. But the title of King of Pop also reflected his absolute dominance over the music charts and global culture. Michael was one of the most recognizable and beloved artists on the planet. His striking outfits, like the red jacket for Thriller and the white glove studded with crystals, became symbols of style and innovation. And who could forget his live performances? His emotional screams, his precise dance moves, and his connection with the audience were unmatched. Despite all his brilliance, Michael remained a sensitive and introspective person. He understood the power of his music, but he also felt the weight of responsibility that comes with being a global icon. He knew that everything he did would be analyzed and followed by millions of fans around the world. And do you think Michael's reign ended there? Not even close. Because the King of Pop was just beginning to show the world that his crown was more than deserved. The struggle for creative independence. After earning the title of King of Pop, Michael Jackson didn't just want to shine. He wanted to be the author of his own shine. He knew that true art came from the freedom to create without limitations or interference. And it was at that moment that Michael decided to fight for his creative independence, even if it meant facing enormous challenges. In the years that followed the success of Thriller, Michael began to deeply involve himself in every aspect of his music and his productions. When it came time to create the album Bad, 1987, he wanted something that was even bolder and more personal. Michael wasn't just singing songs. He was telling stories from his life, exploring themes of self-affirmation, rebellion, and acceptance. Bad was a smash hit with hits like Man in the Mirror, The Way You Make Me Feel, and Bats Itself, which came with an epic music video directed by Martin Scorsese. But Michael wanted more than just music. He wanted to transform each music video into a cinematic experience. It was with this vision that he created productions like the video for Smooth Criminal, a mix of suspense, action, and dance that looked like something out of a Hollywood movie. For Michael, video was not just a tool to promote his music. It was an extension of his art. And this quest for perfection didn't stop with music and videos. Michael also began to take more control over his tours, like the Bad World Tour, where he had a hand in every detail from the stage design to the choreography. He wanted each show to be unique, a spectacle that left the audience in awe. In addition, Michael understood the power of owning the rights to his own music. He purchased the ATV Music Publishing catalog, which included thousands of songs, including much of the Beatles' repertoire. This was a visionary decision that transformed Michael into not only an artist, but one of the most powerful entrepreneurs in the music industry. But with this relentless pursuit of excellence and autonomy, Michael also faced immense pressures. He knew that the world expected each new work to be bigger and better than the last. Critics, the media, and even the industry were always watching, and this weighed heavily on his shoulders. And can you imagine what it's like to fight for your own freedom when the whole world is watching you? But Michael never gave up. He was determined to keep innovating and proving that his art was truly his. And in this video you will see how this fight shaped the eternal legacy of the King of Pop. The man behind the myth. Behind the bright lights, the packed stages, and the title of King of Pop, there was a deeply sensitive, complex, and contradictory man, Michael Jackson. He was a person who, despite being loved by millions, often felt alone. To understand what moved him, we need to look beyond the artist and get to know the human being who lived behind the myth. Michael's childhood was marked by strict discipline and an exhausting schedule. He practically grew up in the spotlight, spending more time in studios and on stage than playing or doing normal childish things. This lack of a traditional childhood left deep marks on his life. Perhaps that's why, as an adult, he created a magical retreat called Neverland Ranch, a place that was like a dream come true. With rides, carousels, a zoo, and a movie theater, Neverland was much more than a home. It was an attempt to recapture the childhood he never had. Despite his great career, Michael was extremely reserved and shy off stage. He used to say that he only felt truly free when he was singing or dancing. Music was his way of expressing everything he couldn't put into words. Michael was also a man of boundless generosity. He used his fame to help people around the world, donating millions to charities and participating in humanitarian projects. Who doesn't remember "We Are the World," the song he co-wrote with Lionel Richie to raise funds to combat hunger in Africa? In addition, Michael was always involved in causes that promoted peace, equality, and helping the most vulnerable. But the life behind the legend also had its challenges. Michael faced the weight of being a public figure, surrounded by rumors, controversies, and a media that was not always kind. He was often the target of speculation, which only reinforced his desire to isolate himself in his private world. Despite everything, Michael never lost his love for his art and his fans. He often said that they were the ones who inspired him to keep going. Even in the midst of difficulties, he dedicated himself completely to what he loved: creating music, dancing, and making the world a more beautiful place. And did you know that behind all the glamour, there was a man who dreamed of being understood? But Michael never let that stop him from moving forward. He continued to touch hearts and create a legacy that still moves the world. Let's see how he faced these challenges and used his music to connect with millions. Controversies and scandals. Despite being one of the most admired and influential figures on the planet, Michael Jackson was also one of the artists most persecuted by the media and surrounded by controversy. In the 1990s and 2000s, he faced difficult times that tested not only his career, but also his resilience as a person. These episodes ended up overshadowing part of his trajectory, but also showed his strength to face unimaginable situations. Michael's life was constantly monitored. Every move, every change in his appearance, and even his personal choices were heavily scrutinized. But what really damaged his image were the accusations of child abuse that surfaced in 1993. Michael always denied the allegations and later reached a financial settlement to settle the case out of court, insisting that he wanted to avoid a public battle that would have further damaged his personal life and career. However, this did not end the speculation. In 2005, he was put on trial on similar charges. The trial was widely covered by the media, turning every detail of his life into headlines. In the end, Michael was acquitted of all charges, but the damage to his reputation and emotional health was profound. The trial was grueling, and images of Michael, thin and haggard, arriving at the courthouse stuck in the public imagination. At the same time, Michael faced another battle: the tabloid media, which seemed determined to turn him into a character rather than a real person. Bizarre stories about his life, from rumors of him sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber to alleged eccentricities at Neverland, were widely circulated, often without proof. Michael, who had always been a private figure, found his privacy constantly invaded. Despite all this, he remained focused on what mattered most to him: music and his fans. During this turbulent period, Michael released projects that showcased his creative strength, such as the album History, which contained deeply personal songs including Scream and They Don't Care About Us, which reflected his outrage at the criticism and injustices he faced. These years were tough, but they also revealed a human Michael Jackson, trying to deal with daunting challenges while continuing to fight to preserve his art and legacy. Can you imagine the weight of being Michael Jackson, of living with the pressure of being a legend while facing public and private judgments? But even amidst the storms, he never stopped creating and inspiring, rediscovering himself with history. After facing years of controversy, judgments, and media attacks, Michael Jackson decided to turn all the pain and criticism into something powerful: his music. That's how the album History, Past, Present, and Future Book I was born, released in 1995. This project was more than just an album. It was a statement of who he was, where he came from, and what he wanted to say to the world. History was divided into two parts. The first was a collection of Michael's greatest hits, as a reminder of all he had already achieved. The second part was made up of new songs, which showed a more vulnerable, indignant, and at the same time hopeful side of Michael. He was determined to use his art as a way to reconnect with his fans and respond to all the hardships he had faced. One of the most memorable tracks was Scream, a powerful duet with his sister Janet Jackson. The song was a cry against the overwhelming pressure of the media and the injustice he felt. The futuristic and innovative music video became the most expensive in history to date, an example of Michael's commitment to pushing his art to the limit. Another song that stood out was They Don't Care About Us. a protest against social and racial inequalities. The music video, filmed in the favelas of Brazil and in a prison, showed a Michael Jackson committed to global issues, using his platform to speak out about injustices that affected millions of people. In addition, the moving Earth song brought a powerful environmental message, with a visually striking video that denounced the destruction of the planet. It was one of the most moving songs of his career, and to this day is considered an anthem for environmental awareness. The tour to promote the album, History World Tour, was one of the most ambitious and grandiose that Michael has ever undertaken. He toured the world, bringing his iconic messages and performances to millions of people. Each show was a cinematic spectacle with special effects, innovative choreography and, of course, Michael's unparalleled stage presence. Despite the criticism and scrutiny it faced, History was a commercial success, selling millions of copies and winning the hearts of his fans. More than that, the album became a testament to Michael's resilient spirit, showing the world that he was more than an artist. He was a man fighting to be heard and understood. Do you see how Michael transformed pain and challenges into art? History was proof that even when he seemed to be at rock bottom, he found a way to rise and shine once again. The endings and comebacks. After the release of History and the conclusion of the gigantic History World Tour, Michael Jackson entered a period of ups and downs in his personal and professional life. However, even facing challenges, he never stopped dreaming of a great return to the stage. Michael knew that his connection with fans was unique and he wanted to give them something unforgettable. In the 2000s, he continued to create music. In 2001, he released the album Invincible, which, although it did not achieve the same commercial success as his previous works, brought memorable tracks such as You Rock My World and the touching Speechless. Once again, he showed the world his ability to create exciting and innovative music, even in the midst of adversity. Despite periods of seclusion, Michael never completely abandoned the scene. In 2002, he was honored at the American Music Awards, and that same year he celebrated the 30th anniversary of his solo career with 2 special concerts in New York. These performances brought together major artists and marked his last time singing alongside his brothers as the Jacksons. However, as the years passed, Michael faced financial and health challenges. The pressures of fame and the weight of controversy still followed him, but even so, he continued to nurture a dream: to return to the stage in style. This dream began to materialize in 2009, when he announced that This Is It tour planned to be his triumphant farewell. With 50 shows scheduled at the O2 Arena in London, Michael promised to deliver the biggest show of his career. Tickets sold out in a matter of hours, and millions of fans around the world eagerly awaited to see him in action again. Michael was completely dedicated to the project. He rehearsed tirelessly, planning every detail of the performances, choreography and sets. Behind the scenes of his rehearsals were documented in the film, This Is It, released later, which revealed an artist who was committed and passionate about music and connecting with his fans. Can you imagine the excitement of the world waiting for this return? Michael was about to show that, even after so many years, he was still the king of pop. But unfortunately, the story would take an unexpected turn. The unexpected goodbye. On June 25, 2009, the world stopped. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, was declared dead at the age of 50 in Los Angeles. The news spread around the world as a shock. How could someone so iconic, so full of talent, leave so suddenly? It was as if the world had lost a part of his musical soul. The cause of death was attributed to cardiac arrest caused by drug intoxication, including the anesthetic propofol, administered by his personal physician, Conrad Murray. The tragedy revealed a dark side of Michael's life, as he had struggled with chronic insomnia and dependency on prescription drugs to cope with the pressure, pain and physical and emotional exhaustion he had been carrying for decades. The global reaction was immediate. Fans gathered outside Neverland Ranch, the Jackson family home and cultural landmarks around the world, singing his songs, dancing his moves and mourning his loss. Artists, politicians and public figures expressed their sadness and highlighted Michael's impact on global culture. It was impossible to measure the size of the void his passing left. Michael's funeral, held at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, was a live-streamed event for millions of people. It was an emotional farewell with performances and speeches from friends, family and colleagues. Who can forget the emotional words of his daughter, Paris Jackson, who said, "Since I was born, Daddy has been the best father you could ever imagine. And I just wanted to tell you that I love you so much." It was one of the most touching moments of that day. Michael left behind not only his music and artistic legacy, but also 3 children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket, who had only just begun to understand the greatness of their father on the global stage. Despite his early departure, Michael remains present in the lives of his children, who often share memories and tributes to the man behind the legend. Can you believe that even after his passing, Michael still manages to unite people around the world? His music and his message live on, echoing in the hearts of those who were lucky enough to hear and be moved by his art. But this story is not over yet. The legacy of the King of Pop goes far beyond his life. The eternal legacy. Even after his passing, Michael Jackson remains an unparalleled cultural force. His impact on music, dance, and entertainment is so profound that it transcends generations. He was not just the King of Pop. He was a symbol of innovation, passion, and humanity whose influence extends far beyond his career. His legacy begins with music. With more than 400 million records sold, Michael is one of the most successful artists in history. Albums like Thriller, Bad, Dangerous, and History are not just collections of songs. They are cultural milestones that shaped the music industry. He redefined the concept of the visual album, elevating music videos to the status of art. Videos like Thriller, Smooth Criminal, and Black or White continue to inspire artists, filmmakers, and fans around the world. But Michael's impact goes beyond sales and awards. He revolutionized dance with iconic moves like the moonwalk that have become synonymous with his image. His dance moves influenced artists and set a new standard for live performance. Even decades later, Michael-inspired choreography can be seen at concerts, competitions, and even on social media. Michael also used his platform for greater causes. He was a dedicated philanthropist, donating millions of dollars to charities and organizing events to help communities in need. Songs like We Are the World, Heal the World, and Earth Song are testaments to his concern for global well-being and the future of the planet. His legacy also lives on in the generations that followed him. Artists like Beyoncé, Bruno Mars, Justin Timberlake, The Weeknd, and many others often cite Michael as one of their greatest influences. His children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket, also carry on his legacy, keeping their father's memory alive at events and tributes. Michael Jackson wasn't perfect. Like any human being, he had his flaws. But his ability to transform pain into art, to break down cultural barriers, and to connect the world through music is something rare and precious. He was more than an artist. He was a phenomenon that united people from different cultures, languages, and backgrounds. Today, monuments, exhibitions, and tributes around the world celebrate his life and work. His music continues to be heard by new audiences, his choreography continues to be imitated, and his creative spirit continues to inspire. In 2009, when he left the world, it seemed like a star had fallen, but in fact, it had only moved. Now it shines eternally in the hearts of every fan who listens to his music, watches his videos, and remembers his smile. And you? Have you noticed that legends like Michael never really leave us? His voice, his dance, and his love live on, proving that even after all this time, the King of Pop still reigns in the hearts of millions. The story of Michael Jackson is a journey that inspires, moves, and leaves an everlasting legacy. From a talented boy from Gary, Indiana, to the greatest music icon of all time, he showed the world the power of art, resilience, and passion. Despite the challenges, his contributions to music, dance, and culture transcend the barriers of time, proving that legends like him never fade away. They live forever in our hearts. And now we want to know, what is your favorite memory of Michael Jackson? Was it a song, a music video, or perhaps a defining moment in his career that moved you? Tell us in the comments. Oh, and if you enjoyed this incredible story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any new content. Here we tell stories that move and connect you with the greatest legends in entertainment. The King of Pop may be gone, but his music lives on. Join us in keeping Michael Jackson's legacy shining.